One, and Bing, and we're live, and we're here, and it's Sam and Patrick, and just go into the old screen share, have a new AgileVentures window there. So let me ask Patrick, how are things, assuming you can see my screen all right, how are things going in your part of the world?
Well, it's very snowy. I live in Massachusetts,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you've heard, but we've got almost 80 inches of snow in the past 20 days or so.
Goodness.
It's historic. It's like once every couple of decades.
All
type of
right.
weather. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, I hope people are keeping
Mhm.
safe.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. A lot of people are being smart about not trying to commute to work.
Yep.
Unless you're taking care of patients in the ICU, there's no reason to risk
Mm-hmm.
your life, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good
So
chat.
where are you located? You're in London?
I'm in London, in the UK. Yes, we've had a little, ever so just tiny dusting of snow in the last few days. But yeah, it's kind of mild here at the moment. We generally don't have very heavy snowfall here, which my children get disappointed about. I've just been looking for you in the AgileVentures thing. Are you yet hooked up to the AgileVentures site?
I am. I believe I am. I do have an account on it.
What's
Sure.
you know what your username is?
Let's.
Or I was just searching for a Patrick.
My username would be, well, it's my email, so it'd be patmbold, PATMBOLGER @gmail.com. Can you still hear me?
I can. Sorry about that. That was a silly. Well, what in ACI we call is a slip rather than a miss. But I basically hit the close window instead of the minimize window, and so that all went a bit silly. But I was just.
We all do that.
No, I found you. I was just looking at your surname. So there we go. Yes. So how have you? Presumably you've got involved in AgileVentures relatively recently.
Quite recently. This is the first hangout that I've joined.
Well, welcome.
So, thank you. I would be what you'd call a newbie, I suppose. I'm finishing up the second half of the edX Engineering SaaS course.
Cool.
And yeah, so I'd like to maybe see if I can get involved and add value and continue to grow my skills.
Awesome. Great to have you coming in. You've come exactly to the right place, and I'm glad I'm here. Actually, last week I was so busy I wasn't able to run quite so many scrums, but I'm sort of back into a period of relative calm now. So yeah, I mean, how have you been finding the 169 class overall?
Oh, it's great. It's incredible the depth as well as the breadth of what that class covers. And I think the homeworks bring you to the starting point of the homeworks have been where the class is left off, so you have to continue to learn to do the homeworks. They're challenging. And then one of the reasons I took it as well is I was very interested in the technology behind these MOOCs. I've never taken a MOOC before. And I'm quite impressed with the courseware software as well as the auto-grading technology. So it's been a great learning experience.
Oh, well, I'm very pleased to hear that. I mean, particularly because I've been facilitating the MOOC for a while, but I'm running a coding bootcamp, an intensive 12-week course for people learning a similar stack to the one that people learn in the 169 class. I'm doing that here in London, and I have not had as much time for the MOOC as I have done in the past, and so I think I've felt bad about not being able to support as many kind of external activities. I've done in the past. I've done more online tutorials and so on for the MOOC students, and but I'm very pleased to hear that even in the absence of those additional things, you've still been deriving value from the class.
Well, your homework intros have been helpful when you kick off and kind of give people a pointer as to how to start. Those have been great. But yeah, I understand that. I guess what is it, Code Masters or something like that?
It's Makers Academy is the
Makers Academy. That's it.
Yes, and there are many of these coding boot camps now throughout the States, but there are not so many in Europe, and we're the kind of foremost coding school in London. But yeah, as you can sort of see, we cover a lot of the same things here. There's a very strong crossover between the kind of stuff that's covered in the 169 course and what is covered in many of these coding boot camps around the world. Yeah. Yeah.
I was wondering about that. I was looking at that. Is it really, I think I know the answer to this, but is it really effective to be in class for, I don't know how it's structured, but it strikes
Mm.
me as 8 to 10 hours a day of, deep dive Berlitz School of Programming.
Mm.
You meet you're on the flat part of the curve at some point during the day, right? You can only be that effective for maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, I think. But what's your thought on that?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think I think programmers who are working, in kind of getting into that state of flow can, potentially produce good work for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. I mean, there was back in the day before I had kids and a family and other responsibilities, I would do, a lot of work, a lot of programming. The quality of the code that was coming out is another question. But I mean, I think if you were sitting in a class and having someone talk at you for 8 hours a day, I think there's very little of that you'd retain. But the model that we have is we have kind of like 2 45-minute lectures a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and the rest of the time the students are, working on, in small teams, and they're pairing and they're doing projects and so on, and we're trying to keep them, ideally in a heightened state of alertness and learning and so on. I mean, I think there's an argument that, it's a bit silly to be doing it intensively over 12 weeks, but I think where a lot of people are is that they feel they can't take that much time off work, and it needs to be done in this kind of short burst in as little time as possible in order for them to, kind of minimize their downtime when they're earning. I don't know that it's precisely in this form is not necessarily my recommended way to have an easy life or necessarily to feel as good as you possibly can do every day, but it seems to be a very popular model in terms of the time frame. The 3-month duration seems to be very popular around the world, and I've now that I'm doing this, I am talking to people who were talking about similar kind of 3-month things. They weren't web shops back 15, 20 years ago, but people doing 3-month intensive courses in databases, and that was the thing that got them into their first DBA jobs and so on. So there's something about this time period that seems to work for some subset of people.
Well, you can't argue with success. It works. Yeah.
Although the argument that I usually make is that I don't know that there's any scientific studies of this, and that's something that I would as a scientist I would like to be doing more. I mean, the proxy in the business is are people willing to pay for something? It would be nice to know of the different interventions that we take, which are the ones that are actually promoting the success versus which of those are not. And I think that's the kind of thing that the MOOC potentially allows one to do. And I think I would like to be doing a lot more intensive online things with larger groups of individuals so that we could be kind of doing a more scientific comparison of the different interventions, because I think it's all a bit of kind of it's a lot of hunch-based, heuristic-based. This sort of feels good. People are liking this. We do have very good stats in terms of placing people, but I'm born and bred a scientist. I want to see some more than just correlations. I want to see some controlled experiments in the longer term.
Yeah, that would be neat.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask you about: do you think that the pair programming concept has fallen by the wayside for the most part? I keep looking. I create Hangouts.
Yeah, if you mean in the MOOC, I think it has, and I think it suffers from, we have towards the beginning of the MOOC a very large number of people, and so there's a very sort of target-rich environment in terms of finding a pair partner. But as time goes on, and this has happened in previous MOOCs, it's just the number of people. We basically, I think every homework we lose sort of an order of magnitude of people, really.
What? 10?
That's a bit so far from the truth. I mean, certainly the first homework is, you lose an order of magnitude of people compared to the numbers who start the course, and then, it's sort of downhill from there. And I think it's partly because the model says that you have to sign up to even see the materials. So everybody who's sort of a passing interest in the course signs up for it. And, other people have, jobs and commitments and this, that, and the other. I mean, I think... I think particularly with this course, where I think the difficulty of the homework ramps up pretty fast. I think it's difficult to sustain. So there's probably only a handful of people, particularly by the time you get to the end of the legacy homework 2. I think there's only a handful of people following the course, and then there's only a percentage of them who will be interested in pairing on it. And so yes, it becomes deeply problematic. I mean, trying to address that in doing online versions of the Makers Academy thing. I mean, I think that there's this. We do have very solid pairing between the students all the way through our 12 weeks of course, and that's partly by having people who are really solidly committed to the entire 12 weeks.
And they're physically in the same location.
They are at the moment, although we're now experimenting with online versions. But I think that it's the commitment for the 12 weeks that's the critical thing, rather than necessarily the physical co-location.
And a financial commitment too.
Yes, which is a big part of it, absolutely.
Skin in the game.
Yeah.
So you literally you decimate the student base with every homework, huh?
It would seem that way. I mean, I'm trying to work out homeworks that would have the opposite effect. I mean, gosh, this is amazing. I could get 10 of my friends to come and do it with me as well. That would be the real trick.
Well, I think that's the right metric, though. I mean, you want it to be challenging, and if people are just there for a drive-by and pick it up by osmosis, well, that's not going to work. They have to work at it.
Indeed, they certainly do have to. They certainly do have to work at it. Yes,
Yeah.
But it's been great chatting with you. I just directing the conversation towards. It sounds like you were looking for a project. Can I help you browse the various projects that are going on? I assume that you're in Slack. You've got access to our AgileVentures Slack, which is of course the place to kind of meet up with lots of other people. Was there a particular kind of project you were looking for? You were interested in a Rails project, or what was what's to your fancy?
Definitely Rails. I wasn't aware that some of the projects weren't Rails, in fact.
Yeah, I think some of them are not Rails, but some of our most active projects are indeed Rails. I would probably say that the two most active at the moment are the Ostra support system and the LocalSupport project. LocalSupport is, I'm the project manager. That's for a charity group here in northwest London. Ostra is for Syrian orphans. So there's a broader international appeal, but both of them are using Rails. But there's other projects of different levels of activity. I mean, there's the Autograder project, which is the project behind the MOOC. That's a pure Ruby project. We've got some new ones that have been done by Makers students. So we've got, I think, does it Lookup? Yeah, the solar capacity one. That's a mobile project. I think they've done that using Sinatra. Yeah, I mean, I think not all of the projects are. Oh, is it? You want this space? Yeah. Let me just. I'm to a different location to give some people. No problem. But yes, I mean, I think that the. Yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of meeting other developers, I mean, and getting someone to pair with, then I would say that the LocalSupport and the Ostra are your best bets. In fact, I know that the three main developers for the LocalSupport are all in your time zone. So
really?
yes, so that would be and as project manager, I'm kind of I'm slightly biased towards wanting to encourage people to come into that project. But yeah, I mean, if you're is there anything else I can tell you about it to help you get?
No, but I can look at how do I get involved and how do I hook up with the guys who I would work with if I'm going to participate?
Well, I mean, I would say that the key thing is get into if you're on the Slack, is join the project channel on the Slack.
Okay. Yep.
So have you installed the Slack desktop client? Are you on Windows or OS X, or what's your platform?
I'm on a MacBook, so I've been using Slack on the web. I think I'll install the native client at some point too.
I definitely encourage you to install the native client. I think that's definitely the way forward. But if you can see in my screen share here, this is the the channel here, and this is Marion there, and Michael. They're both, as I say, on the east coast of the US, and they're doing a lot of the work really. And if I'm slowing them down, I think, but I'm reviewing their pull requests and so on. I mean, one thing would be to get in this channel and say hi, and I can certainly introduce you to Marion and Michael. What's your Slack username out of interest?
Yeah, let me look that up too. So my username is my email address, patnbulger@gmail.com.
I think I found you. Yeah, here we go.
Okay, yep.
So I'm just inviting you into the channel. And I mean, the key things that we have is there's a retrospective every Friday. Friday or something, it's bi-weekly, but there'll be one this Friday That will be at 4:30 UTC this coming Friday. Although I find it difficult to actually. Well, I'll find it difficult to attend this Friday. But you can usually find me in this Scrum. On Mondays to Friday, and sometimes Michael will join me at this time. Michael and Marion tend to be pairing a bit later in the evening, from my point of view, which is your early late afternoon or early evening, and but at 12 UTC on Thursday we'll be having the client meeting where we show the latest functionality to the real client and get feedback from them. So.
Is there a place I can go and see the calendar for Scrums on this?
You can. I mean, if you look in, you've got the events, the upcoming events thing. So you can sort of look through here, and you can see, we've got the daily, what are we in, the AtlanticScrum. I don't know that I necessarily have the client meeting in the calendar there. We do have the local support, retrospective. Next one there. Annoyingly, in the AgileVentures site, it doesn't necessarily it doesn't support bi-weekly events, so it's kind of a bit. That's kind of we've got that open as a feature request.
Right.
But yeah, so I mean, it's a little bit hit and miss. What I would say though is that the key thing is to be in the local support channel on Slack, and we will, when things are happening like the client meeting, what I'll be doing is I'll be doing, at channel things, client meeting coming up, and so on. But that is a very regular fixture at 12 UTC. I'll just say the next client meeting at noon UTC on Thursday. But even if you can't make those, they all get recorded, and so you can kind of have if we go into the projects. If you want to see, a bit of what goes on in those kind of meetings, then you can look at the local, the individual project, and there should be videos for the project. So you can see here, like local support, there you go, local support client meeting. That's the if I copy the video URL there, that's their. I'll take Patrick here. That's video from last client meeting. So you could have check that out. And I think you can do the same with the Osra folks and possibly Website 1. And it's all there sort of to be browsed, and the idea is to try and it's open development rather than just open source. So in principle, any and all interactions, any pair programming, any meetings with the client, any retrospectives, all this stuff is all there in videos and all available to be browsed. And we've got this kind of huge video library of all of the activity, but it's not particularly well organized, and at the moment sort of chatting to people and finding out what's going on is a big part of these things. If you were interested, I mean, the code, if we go and look, we can see that the local support code is all there on GitHub, and you're of course more than welcome to fork this code and see if you can get set up with it, although that's it's the setting up process is still not as smooth as we'd like it to be. So I would say, feel free to kind of like reach out to people on the channel to, help yourself get set up if you're interested in the code. But again, don't you can move forward as slowly or as quickly as you like. Watch a few videos, hang out with some meetings, observe some pair programming sessions. It's all good.
In terms of keeping track of requested features, are you using Pivotal Tracker?
Yeah, we do, and so these things, if you see that the we've got here the Pivotal Tracker link to every project page.
Has a link there.
Yeah, basically we have a link. I mean, other projects, I think, like for example, the Osram project, they've switched over to using Confluence or some other thing. I think our website 1, the whole site that supports I forget what it's called, the whole site that supports AgileVentures is kind of lags a little bit behind in terms of the great things that different projects are doing. But yeah, so you can see here the whole project tracking activities and so on.
Well, I'll take a look. I'll take a look at the code. I'll look at some videos. I'll catch up on the documentation. I'll listen in.
Yeah.
On a meeting or two and see where I can inject myself and maybe start adding value and helping out.
Sounds great. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, lovely to meet you, Patrick. And yeah, don't feel free to reach out to me. If you're in the Slack channel, you can just do @Tansaku is me if you want to ask me a question in the group, or just catch me at this time any day, Monday to Friday. Although Fridays get a bit complicated, so let's say Monday to Thursday.
Yeah, I understand. Well,
Okay.
great. I'm glad I hooked up with you, Sam.
Yeah, likewise, Patrick. Lovely talking to you. All right.
All right.
Take care.
Well, take care now.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.